समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. To that greatest of Guru, my humble prostrations, who made me recognize that I am free to be happy every moment. My very existence is happiness, and there is nothing greater than spreading happiness everywhere. Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda spread this awareness, this knowledge that the source of happiness is one's own self. One who discovers this is not affected by any happenings in the world. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha. In the tragedies, calamities, problems, there is no grieving, no continuous sorrow, no becoming bitter with life experiences. Sukheshu vigatas praha. In comforts, in moments of joy, pleasure, when recognition, name, fame, position is there, be free of all attachments. Only such a person is free to be happy at all times. Such a giver who holds on to nothing, keeps nothing. Nothing can touch such a person. No negativities, no sorrow can touch such a person. That's why the work that Gurudev did and still could be cheerful, happy, and not only peaceful, but in whose presence we used to feel such peace. I remember the very first opportunity I had to be with Gurudev right in his presence for a question-answer session. In fact, it was the first time I was having an interaction with Gurudev. Normally, in our study groups, Yuva Kendra classes, we were bubbling with questions, asking so many questions to our Chik Sevak. But when we came in front of Gurudev, and Gurudev was sitting quietly, we were also sitting quietly. I was very much new. I was close to Gurudev physically for the very first time. I was just sitting 3 feet away from him. I was full of questions on meditation, on Guru, and such questions were bubbling in my mind. Yet, when we sat there for almost 10 to 12 minutes, nobody spoke anything. It's only later I understood who Dakshinamurti is and how he communicates. Our group sevak got a little upset with us. Normally you're always asking me questions, and here now the master of knowledge is there. Why don't you all ask questions to him? And he was getting a bit restless because, in a group, silence is a bit eerie. Everybody's uncomfortable. So somebody breaks the silence awkwardly. And he broke the silence awkwardly by forcing us to ask questions. Puja Gurudev calmed him and said, when the mind is calm, when the mind is quiet, there are no doubts. And we were suddenly aware of the condition of our mind, and we were amazed that normally we have so many doubts and questions, but at that moment, in that silence, in his presence, we had no questions. There was nothing to ask. There were no doubts. There were no agitations. And how true were his words. And he said, my children in my presence are quiet. There are no questions. That moment, we realized that so many logical answers we ask for, and yet most questions just dissolve in the presence of that master who resides in peace. This Puja Gurudev had written about Sri Ramana Maharishi to Swami Taponji Maharaj when he had gone to meet Sri Ramana Maharishi. But in his presence, I know one who was so full of deep questions of spirituality. In that moment of silence, all questions dissolved. One who is Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha Stitadhir Muni Ruchyate. Such a person of steady knowledge who is free of these three causes, main causes or the root causes of our agitations of the mind. Raga, attachment born out of our coloring the situations and not accepting situations, things, beings as they are, including ourselves as we are. Raga is that attachment born out of our own false imaginations, illusions, false expectations. One who is free of this raga. And with these false expectations, we attach ourselves to certain results of actions, certain expectations, and in that there are this fear of loss, failure, anxieties, etc. Vita Bhaya, from whom fear itself has vanished. They were there. And Krodha, where there is desire and desire is not fulfilled, or anything comes in the way of our desire, towards that there is anger. And one who is free of attachment, one who is free of fear, one who sees oneness everywhere, and one who has no limitations within, no distinctions within, such a person has no anger. And yet, such a teacher, such a master, to discipline and to correct, has to show anger, but never becomes angry. These few signs of the realized master we saw in our Gurudev. And as Shri Krishna says, Yadyad acharati sreshtaha tattat devetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanu vartate. Launch yourself into actions as these great people did. Yet Shankaracharya has warned in the later chapters of the commentaries on the later chapters of the Gita that people very often, out of convenience, follow what they like in a great person and or follow their outward appearance, behavior, without recognizing the essence, and take to convenience. But when we have devotion, reverence, adoration, that attunement that takes place with that hero, that ideal in our life. And Puja Gurudev used to break up the word attunement into at-one-ment. And if you pronounce it fast, it is attunement. When our hearts, when our mind and intellect, both our love, our reverence, our belief and our faith, adore such a great personality, then our mind naturally molds, naturally follows, naturally gravitates towards what that person represents. Puja Gurudev's daring and fearlessness, not only to be just outspoken and speak the truth, but daring enough to make possible what everyone, even in the spiritual field, till today think is impossible. Even recently, I have met very popular, very well-known, very acclaimed speakers or gurus of many. And even they till today have said that if there was a teacher who could teach to the masses that knowledge of Vedanta in its pure form, and yet by which it could reach to the many. I have read one of the letters of Puja Gurudev, where he has written that how his heart used to pain when even in the Himalayas he would sit with some of these learned pandits or sadhus, and how they would show off their panditya, their Sanskrit and that knowledge, but what they spoke did not clarify the doubts of a sincere seeker, was not understandable. And how Gurudev could teach that knowledge which even the great masters felt that the public in the world are not interested in the truth, not in pure spirituality. What goes on even today in the name of spirituality, religion, practices, is only for some finite gain. Who truly wants the infinite? It is for that even Swami Taponji Maharaj told Gurudev that stay in the Himalayas, for here itself they are no longer teachers. And if 10 people, 11 people do not come to your discourse in the plains, then that many students will come to the Himalayas. Sincere students will come to the Himalayas. But Gurudev was daring that if there was an inquirer, a seeker like us, like him, looking for inspiration, looking for direction, looking for this knowledge to be given in such a manner that the modern, rational, educated person who in his intellectual arrogance defies, denies everything, that also which is precious, that which will be beneficial to him or her themselves. What was thought as impossible, even today the great masters wonder that how daring, how fearless was this great master. Even to start any project, I'm telling you, we do not even know that where Gurudev's reach is there, from the most remote villages to the largest cities in the world, including the universities. Not only in imparting this knowledge, not only inspiring so many of us, so many of you, to do seva for the community and grow. To launch ourselves into action the way he did it, without any attachment to even what he created. Because he used to openly say that whatever is done by him, by his grace. We are just mere instruments. People used to ask him, I remember as youngsters when we used to sit at his feet, and sometimes, it is said, vriddhastavat chinta saktaha, that at old age, people only worry, and worry not even about themselves, but worry about everything in the world where they have got nothing to worry about. And people used to ask Gurudev, what will happen to the mission after you? And when our Gurudev is there, who teaches us we are eternal, whom we want to be in our life eternally, even to talk about life after him, what will happen to the mission? And these are people who do nothing in the mission, or have done nothing in the mission, or were doing nothing in the mission. Who do you think will be appointed? And Puja Gurudev used to just smile. I didn't create this. When he made me create this mission, or did it through me, I came down from the Himalayas just to spread that knowledge which my Guru gave me. My Guru had compassion for me. He knew that the people will just grab me into this action and that not leave me till I die. I'm not worried of what will happen to his work. He who gave me the capacity to do all this, that today you might glorify, if he wants it to continue, he will provide the means to that person who will continue all this. And we saw that. That how, with devotion, with dedication, Puja Guruji expanded this mission. The whole spiritual knowledge, the whole joy of living, the essence of all sadhana is not doing big work, small work, no work, plenty of work, doing your family duties or doing social work, but serving without ego and selfish desire. Even really speaking, we say the master works for the desire of the welfare of the world. Even there he has got no ego. Gurudev used to say, if a master thinks that I have come to save the world and these damned people requires a savior, that itself is a colossal ego. Thus, when we see and hear of how such great masters who had no desire whatsoever, not even to create a mission, etc., they did so much. And even in doing that, neither got attached to anything. Why? Because in love, it is not a question of what I get out of it. The lover finds happiness in the happiness of the beloved. That supreme love, devoid of all selfishness, devoid of all kamana, desire or lust or attachment, that love in which one gives and gives and gives, and in that giving has got no ego of being a giver. I remember on Guru Purnima once, I was telling Gurudev all your blessings. And he said, blessings are for everyone. It is you who have to receive it. No ego in one's action. People get attached to their positions. People get attached to their good work. People do good work, but they get attached to their position because if that is taken away from them, their identity goes away. But Pujya Gurudev, without that sense of ego, could do so much effortlessly and still have time to sit in peace, spreading joy, and in whose presence you would attain peace. In this section of the Gita, where Krishna continues to say how we can make our knowledge steady, and he says one point, Vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. That one whose senses are under his mastery, that person's knowledge that I am bliss, that knowledge that our Guru has given us, that which we have received from the Guru Parampara, that demonstration of love manifest in action that we have seen and we are experiencing and benefiting today in all branches of our mission. All that was done by him, and as he said, done through him. He did it. And about the sannyasi, it is said, Shri Krishna, one who is not attached to the fruits and not even attached to the action itself. Otherwise, people get so offended when it's time for them to retire, even from their business, even from their family duties, and even from this physical life itself. How attached we are. One may do japa, tapa, fasting, puja, elaborate rituals, pilgrimages. Gurudev used to give this example that saints have given. And the words of Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib, Tirat, Varat, Ardhan Karat, Man mein kare guman, Nanak nefal jatud, Jo kunchan isnan. The very essence of all sadhana, whether it is service of the world, whether it is even glorious work or life dedicated in the service of humanity, whether it is long pilgrimages, elaborate austerities as fasting, etc., elaborate pujas with its paraphernalias, yagyas, yagas, chanting, discourses of scriptures, study of scriptures, panditya. Tatakim, 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 tatakim. Of what avail is all it? Guror angri padme manas chaina lagnam tatakim, 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 tatakam. Bhagavan Shankaracharya has said that even if we have done extreme austerities and sadhanas, have knowledge to create scriptures itself. But if the mind is not surrendered with humility at his feet and service done in his name and offered to his feet, tata kim, tata kim, tata kim, tata kim. Then what? Then what? What is our achievement? Even spiritual achievement. And therefore, Bhagwan concludes this section. Vihaya kamanya sarvan pumams charati nispraha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashantim adhikachati. Such a person not just attains happiness, but discovers, I am that peace myself. Shantoham, Shivoham, Anandoham. Because ashantasya kuta sukham. One who is not at peace, how can that person have any happiness? Four are our enemies. And such Mahatmas, having conquered their enemies within, have in their presence, through their actions, and by their mere being, helped us to conquer this. Vihaya kamanya sarvan, who has no longer dependence on objects for happiness, and that's called as desire. Who has got no more clinging attachments out of false expectation towards limited pleasure, relationships, situations. One who understands that this whole universe belongs to the Lord, given by the Lord. Nothing is mine. मुट्ठी बांध कर आया जगत में हाथ पसारे जाएगा. Empty handed we came. Empty handed we go. It's what we left behind is important. And how do we live that life? As Gurudev demonstrated, that we came in this world crying, but we must go from this world smiling. When we were crying at our birth, the world was celebrating with joy. But when we depart from this world, don't go crying. Don't go on holding, not even to this body. And look at Gurudev. When someone asked him, Swamiji, your heart is functioning only 15%, don't speak, don't travel around, let those who are interested come to you. And Gurudev said, this vehicle is for his service. When it is no longer capable, let it be discarded. Vihaya kamanya sarvan pumams charati nispraha. Not that sits back and does nothing to attain peace, but in midst of all his journey in life, in midst of the many he takes along with him in his journey, nispraha, a lover without any expectations, without any attachment. Therefore, no disappointments. Therefore, can love forgive without being disappointed, even if we make a million mistakes. And when people complain, oh, this person is like that, this person is like that, and how can they, in the spiritual world, or even they, in the mission do like this? Everybody has got their ego. In saying that, we alone have got that ego. And the highest of spirituality is that if somebody has done wrong, look at our Gurudev. Look at Bhagwan, Ashutosh. Forgiveness. And therefore never disappointed, never agitated. I came from the Himalayas, I didn't bring all this with me. Nothing I'm going to take with me. This is what Gurudev said. Nothing is mine. In fact, he did not even claim anyone as his disciple, even though we surrender to him as disciple. He always took everyone to his Guru. Everything was Sri Tapovanji Maharaj's blessings, and thus that parampara from the Lord continues. Nothing is mine. And without any ahankar, ego. And if any time you hear that Gurudev showed anger, it was only never because something wrong happened from you. But even if you did the mightiest of things, even the most glorious of things, and if you had the ego, that ego makes you suffer, that ego keeps you away from the truth and the Lord. And that's when Gurudev would blast. But himself, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. Because even in Narad Bhakti Sutra, that Bhagwan hates one thing, and that is that ego that separates us from the Lord, that separates us from our Guru, that separates us from each one of us who are the devotees and disciples of such a Guru. And I will conclude with one beautiful story. Whenever we went to the big cities, people were there to grab Gurudev and take them home. And very often we who would follow him were left behind sometimes at the airport or the railway station. Not because they didn't care. They would get so carried away with Gurudev and his awe that very often Gurudev had to turn around and make sure that we are taken care of. One Amma who met us in Siddhbadi, and we had to pass through Delhi very often to go to Siddhbadi and stay overnight. Either we had to book ourselves in some hotel or motel, and very often as youngsters, that time, none of our parents felt it safe. And many people would take Gurudev home and we would be stranded. But she said, my house is there, whether I am there or not. The password, and that password long before computers and mobile phones came, is Hari Om. And the gates will open. You can just go and stay in our house. One of the trips when I was staying in our house, That husband and wife looked after us as children in their house. That time, a group of youngsters who had come from Siddhbadi and had gone on a yatra to Vaishnav Devi, 70 of them, their complete trip mismanaged by the travel agent, hungry, thirsty, without bath, without sleep, landed up at her home before they could catch their train at night. For 70 people, where would be food there immediately? She arranged all that, gave them the whole house, the veranda, everybody to rest, have bath, etc. She fed everybody, including I was in the house, and then she ate her food. And I don't even know whether there was any food left. I just looked at her and said, Amma, how did you do this? And she said, in the initial days, Gurudev used to stay with me. Afterwards, many people came and they took away Gurudev to their homes. She said, one day I went and complained to Gurudev that you no longer come and stay with me. And Gurudev said to me that now I am a well-known Swami. Hundreds of people will host me. But when my children, when they come, they have got no place to go. You look after them. She said, after that, I never complained to Gurudev. For when I have his devotees with me, where the devotee is, my Lord is. In the service of the people for whom Gurudev dedicated his life as the service of the Lord of Lords. When we serve in that manner, he is constantly residing with us, in us, and that peace and bliss he is. That constant awareness of bliss and peace resides in our hearts. Chinmaya Ananda. May the blessings of the Divine and our Guru Parampara make us ever be in his service at his feet. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Now this Upanishad starts with a question, inquiring into this Jagat and what is the cause of this Jagat. Here the student has been observing himself and the functioning of his equipments. And from there, he's beginning to inquire, in short, who am I?